This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Lotierzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Lotierzo and Jack Hirsch.
And we're back. Welcome to Glove Fist. My name is Frank Lotierzo, former fighter, part-time writer. Try to be a full-time observer, except for this past weekend. I am joined by co-host Jack Hirsch, former 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. Jack, how are you tonight?
Hey, very good, Frank.
Have a good weekend?
Good weekend, Frank. But how was your weekend? I mean, was it related to boxing or you just took a break from the sport?
I had big plans for the weekend, Jack. I was going to watch the Canelo fight. Didn't get to see it live. Saturday, Wendy and I went to the house at the shore. It was a beautiful day, and I tried to encompass a summer's worth of partying in one day. So from about 12 o'clock.
Wait. It's May. You had all this
I know.
time. The summer hasn't even officially begun.
I've had spring fever, Jack, since January 1st. So anyhow, I talked to Joe Bergman, our buddy, and he has a place about 6 miles from where Wendy and I are. So we agreed to get together. So from 12 o'clock until about 5, I'm outside in the sun on the deck, sipping some vodka. And Joe and I connect, and he says, why don't you meet us? I forget the name, the Country Club Tavern, around 6. We'll have something to eat. We'll watch the Derby, yada, yada, yada. So we do that. Jack, I do not remember. I know we got there around 5:45. I do not remember anything from 7:30 till 3:30 in the morning. I don't remember the Uber ride home. I don't remember going in the house. I don't remember getting changed. I don't remember anything. I just remember saying, I'll lay down here for a minute and I'll turn the fight on about 11 o'clock. I wake up at 3:30. Fight's over. Point is, Joe and I had a great time. His son had to drive him home. We Ubered there and Ubered back. I can't remember the last time, but like Jack, 7 hours of the night. I can't remember what happened.
Okay. I say, listen, you didn't miss much. It was pretty predictable. The Canelo.
That's never happened to me before.
So you're proud of it, Frank. You mean when the years you boxed in the ring, you were never hit hard where you didn't remember what happened?
No. The most injured I was Michael Spinks hit me with a left hook, and I couldn't hear for about 3 days.
Okay. But
That's
you
it.
got your hearing back. Let me tell you that for our viewers out there, one of the things I was doing, I'm downsizing. My biggest problem is my boxing memorabilia. We have a lot of our listeners who are collectors. They collect a ton of magazines, books, and all sorts of stuff. Unless it's a precious item, excuse me, such as a poster from the first Ali Frazier fight, or something very personal, don't collect stuff, because eventually you're going to have to downsize. You're going to get rid of it. Who are you going to pass it on to? I mean, what am I passing it on to? I have boxes and boxes of published work, things I've written. I wish everything was digital back in the day, Frank, so I wouldn't have this problem. So I'd have a few magazines per one feature story I'd write. I can't keep a few. I've had to get rid of a bunch of stuff, and that's happened with other people. A book collector who had 2,500 books asked me, did I know anyone who wants to buy him because he has to downsize. His wife is right. He's got to get rid of them. She can't get stuck with them.
That's funny, Jack, because I'm in the midst of doing the same thing. Now, see if you can help me out with this. I have a bookcase from ceiling to floor full of VHS tapes, all boxing. I have about 12 hours of live newscast of Muhammad Ali's career from like 1963 all the way up to about 85, where everything that happened, Cronkite doing it, Frank Reynolds, all those guys. But I don't have a VCR. So what do I do with those tapes?
Well, you said it best, but a lot of people have the predicament. Let's talk about what happened this past weekend. The big news was Canelo Alvarez beating John Ryder by a lopsided decision. The consensus was Canelo was stopped Ryder anywhere from 6 to 9 rounds.
Right.
And he wanted the KO. He couldn't quite get Ryder out of there. Interesting point, Frank. After the fight, Ryder said he thinks Canelo's slipping because Canelo didn't stop him. He was being honest, Ryder. He wasn't taking a cheap shot. If anything, it would build Ryder up if he said Canelo hasn't lost the thing. He's in his peak. He's at his best. That would have elevated Ryder a little more. So, Canelo, what you saw to replay some of the rounds, do you agree with what I've said a while back? I think he's in a decline.
I think he's starting to show that. This is what I saw. I thought Canelo was somewhat pedestrian, mostly single shots, no head movement, couldn't stop a one-dimensional bottom contender in a tiny ring. I mean, I know he didn't have a lot in front of him other than Ryder showed some heart, but Jack, it just looked like he thought that was a coming out party in front of his home crowd, and he was so sure he was going to win. I don't think that we got the best Canelo that there is, but he's on the decline, and I can name at least 3 guys who I'd be very leery of him going near, and they are Bivol, David Benavidez, and I'm not even sure he beats it Jamal Charlo now. But look, the fight was what we thought it would be.
Fighting?
You're right. So that makes it tough. But
Jamal Charlo.
But I mean, Canelo, he just looked to me like a guy that was going through the motions. I don't know if it's because he can't get up or he couldn't get excited about the opponent in front of him. But yeah, a pedestrian effort. And I do think that there were 2 knockdowns. He only got credit for 1. But from what I saw, Jack, he won every round except the last round.
He was loading up Canelo on his punches, putting everything he had behind him. He didn't seem to be particularly quick, and there wasn't much head movement, but he didn't need the head movement. Let's be honest.
Yeah, see, that's why it's hard to gauge him.
Head movement, if you don't need to use head movement, move around. He saw he was just a stronger fighter, and he figured he could fight firepower with Ryder and get him out of there. And he beat him up pretty badly. Kudos to John Ryder. He showed extraordinary courage, extraordinary will. He said before the fight he was willing to go through fire to win.
And he showed that.
He proved his point, and he's earned an opportunity not to fight for the title, but if he fought another big name in the division, beside Canelo at this point, he's earned a meaningful fight.
Absolutely.
Let's say with the performance. And listen, he did go the distance. Kudos to him. He should be given some points for going the distance. But the big story is Canelo. Canelo had to be a touch disappointed not to get Ryder out of there. At the end, no one probably cares. Canelo won by a lopsided fashion. Canelo remains as big a gate attraction as he was before the fight. So nothing lost on Canelo's account. It's like the band rolls on in the case of Canelo. And John Ryder actually came out a little bit ahead from what he entered the ring. True, he didn't win the fight, but we know his name now. We know right. This is a gritty guy. This is a gritty guy at the heart of a lion.
He earned another big fight and a nice payday. He's a limited guy. I think what we saw from him was about the best he has to offer. But as you said, the story is Canelo, and now he and Bivol are going back and forth on the weight.
I'm baffled. It should be just the opposite. Canelo, and I don't want to say to his credit, because I don't believe a word he says when he insists the fight be fought at 175 pounds, the light heavyweight limit. He wants no edges, no this, no that. I don't believe him, Frank. Am I calling Canelo a liar? No, or maybe in the heat of the moment, Canelo really meant what he said. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. He meant what he said, but when push comes to shove, his trainer, his advisors speak to him about getting an edge. Maybe they'll make Bivol go down to 168. I could see Canelo making Bivol go down to 170, for example, and these crazy sanctioning bodies will still call it for the World Light Heavyweight Championship. But Bivol is saying, well, I already beat him at 175. I want the belts at 168. And Bivol, I mean, I lost respect for him, Frank. Yeah, he's not calling out all the better beef. That's the fight to make. That is the biggest fight. That is Bivol's legacy fight right now. That's his monster victory.
Jack, in a right side up world, Canelo would fight Benavidez and Bivol would fight Beterbiev. But we don't have that. We have these fugazi, catch weight, these gimmick fights. But here's the thing. Now, I can see your point, what you're saying about Canelo. But, Jack, here's the thing. Canelo can't win. Fans are impossible to satisfy because if he brings Bivol down, then he's looking for an edge. If he fights him at 175, he doesn't want to lose his super middleweight belt, so he can't win either way. So I respect the fact that fight him at 75, bringing him down to a weight he hasn't been at for 11 years, and we know going down is just as dangerous as going up. Fight him at a weight where he's at his best, because if you beat him when he's not at his best, and nobody, you, me, or Bivol, know what he can do at 168. We know what he is at 175.
No one cares.
That's where it means something.
Let's do a comparison to another Mexican legend, Julio Cesar Chavez. He lost to Frankie Randall towards the tail end of his career, but he was still a good fighter, Chavez. It was a shock loss to Frankie Randall. They had the rematch. Chavez won kind of on the controversial circumstances, a technical decision, in which a lot of people didn't think he deserved to get the technical decision. But all they talk about, well, Chavez evened the score. That's it. No one cared about the circumstances. And no one will care of the circumstances of Canelo beating Bivol, with the weight, with this, with that. At the end,
Jack, wait a second, though. If Canelo beats Bivol at 175, that means something. That says something. But if he beats him at 168, what does that mean? He's beating him not at his best and not in his weight class, not in his natural weight class. We see fighters do that all the time. The only way I respect Canelo if he beats Bivol is if he beats him at 175. I don't care if he can beat him at 178.
I pick Ryan Garcia to edge out Tank Davis. Edge him out, split decision, tight controversial fight. You pick Tank Davis. A little apprehension you had, but you picked him. You did. You're probably gloating. Oh, I picked Tank to win and Jack picked Garcia. Who cares? And you're not taking into consideration, well, Garcia.
Tank was the better fighter. It wasn't a big pick. Everybody picked Tank.
That's it. You're proving my point. That's what people are saying. That's what I'm even saying. Tank was the better fighter. But the point is, no one is talking after the fight seriously about the sacrifices Garcia had to make, except Tank haters. Tank haters are always going to bring that up. Oh, Garcia had to lose weight. He was weight drained. He was this. He was that. But outside of Tank haters, any objective.
But Jack, that was only the first time. They only fought one time. There's no talk of them fighting again. If they fought again, it might mean something for Tank to beat him at 140. We've already seen Bivol and Canelo at 175, and it was pretty much a one-sided fight. If Canelo can change that, it means something. If he beats him at 168, it means nothing.
Now, this is what doesn't make sense between the two parties arguing. You wonder the logic behind this. Why would Bivol care to be the champion at 168. He's one of the champs at 175.
Right.
He'll be the unified champion no matter what any sanctioning body says. If he beats Beterbiev, everyone will know Bivol is the world light heavyweight champion. No ifs or buts. Who gives a darn about sanctioning bodies? If he beats Beterbiev, that's the fight. So why would he want to go down to 168?
Because, Jack, he wants to get that title, and then he'll leave there, and there'll be 4 vacant titles. And
So
you can also say, Jack, nobody's saying this. They're all saying, well, Canelo wants that out where he wants to fight at 175 because he can't lose his super middleweight belts. But you know what? Bivol has an excuse. If he goes to 168 and he loses, he can say, well, I beat him at my best. So to me, the whole thing is what's wrong with boxing. Bivol should fight Beterbiev, and Canelo should fight Benavidez. But we don't get that today. We get gimmicks.
Benavidez isn't cut and dry. Really, I know Benavidez is unbeaten, has a lot of potential. Benavidez could have forced the issue. He could have put serious pressure on Canelo had he beat Calaplant more decisively, but it went to a decision. It went to
Jack, he still beat him decisively.
Yeah, but the first 6 rounds, it was a pretty even fight at the halfway point.
But Jack, by the time the fight was over, there was no doubt who was better. And you could also say the same thing with Canelo. Plant was in that fight for the first 5 or 6 rounds.
But Canelo stopped him. And if you compare the 2 performances against Calaplant, you have to give the edge to Canelo because he got him out of it. And Canelo was comfortably ahead on points when he got Calaplant out.
But Jack, what does that mean? What does that mean? Foreman beat Norton and Frazier easier than Ali. Does that mean anything?
Not as far as predicting who's going to win, perhaps, but I'm saying to force the issue, you've got to put pressure on the big name. To bring Canelo out, force him to fight you, you've got to put pressure on him.
If he would have devastated him, yes, there'd be more pressure. But Jack, at that level, it's hard to do that.
You just said it best, Frank. Had Benavidez dominated Plant, knocked him out in 4 rounds, and we were going, oh wow, he looks sensational, like a star in the making. They would have put serious pressure on Canelo.
Jack, that's still the biggest fight in the division. I don't care what anybody says. Benavidez and Canelo, they have 2 common opponents. They both beat him convincingly. He's the signature win for both guys at the weight.
You know what they're doing with Canelo now? And this gets me sick, Frank. Sick. Edgar Berlanga? Are you kidding me?
Jack, I don't see anybody talking about that fight at all.
Eddie Hearn has. Eddie Hearn is.
But Eddie Hearn says something different every day.
Eddie Hearn is Canelo's promoter. They're working towards that. He's a Mexican. He's a.
Okay, down the road, but that's not going to happen this year.
It is. They're planning. There's a reasonable chance it will. On June 24th at Madison Square Garden, Berlanga's fighting Jason Quigley, a fighter who never quite panned out. It's
right.
Berlanga should win the fight. There's a reasonable chance he could even stop Quigley like the second half of the fight, maybe even early, but it won't take away. He's not, you want to know something? Berlanga's not a level below Canelo. He's 2 or 3 levels below him. That's how.
No, he has no shot.
He's got none. And they're building it up. But you know what they're doing? They're allowing Canelo to waste time.
That's what they do with stars, Jack. It's a star-driven sport. You know that.
I'm not that sure. For all of Canelo's talk, everyone's quoting him about Bivol. The people behind him are going to delay making the fight. Fight the Edgar Berlangas, beat guys like that. And eventually they got to get around to like the big matchup when the pressure's on him. Look what happened after he lost to Bivol. He fights a washed-up Gennady Golovkin, and I can't criticize him because it was a business deal. Golovkin brought a lot to the table. It was a safe fight for Canelo. Everyone knew, for the most part, Canelo was going to beat that version of Golovkin. That wasn't the same Golovkin. He fought the 2 years before. He waited 4 years between fights to fight Golovkin. Okay, notice that. He took forever to get around to the real rubber match, because we know Golovkin won the first one. The second could have gone either way. Canelo got the decision. Fine, he won. But the rubber match, 4 years. And then after that, Caliplant. I mean, come on. Come on.
I don't understand your point. What's your point?
And then Berlanga, Canelo only gets the ultimate big fight when he has to. For all his big talk, they are milking out his career, and they're going to continue to do so with the easiest matchups possible. Canelo talks about the biggest challenge. I want Bivol. Canelo could easily have the Bivol fight made. Eddie Hearn promotes Bivol. There's no promotional conflict here.
Jack, so Canelo just can't win. He can't win. He fought the second best guy in the light heavyweight division, who some people think may be the best, without any gimmicks. He lost, and he still can't win. If he goes down, if he brings him down, he gets excoriated. If he stays there, he gets excoriated. You have him fighting Edgar Berlanga. Nobody's talking about that but you, so I don't see how that's even a factor.
About it. Eddie Hearn has been talking about it.
You want to go? Eddie Hearn says something every day on Boxing Scene. How many things has he said about Joshua? He's not going to fight till December. Now he may fight in December. Now we're going to fight Wilder, but we really want Fury. He goes on and on. Eddie Berlanga and Eddie Hearn is De La Hoya. You can't go by anything they say until it's written down. Eddie Hearn, he says nothing. I put no credence in anything he says. And Joe Saunders and Ryder would be a good fight, perhaps down the road. And you're right. Nobody had that fight going the distance.
Billy Joe Saunders hasn't fought for a long, long time. There's talk of him returning to the ring, that he's in training. Right. I agree. Him and John Ryder would be a nice, all British match.
But not in Billy's first fight back.
A very nice fight. Yeah, competitive. Very competitive fight. Good matchup, that could be made, and would do really good business in England.
Jack, on the undercard, I was reading today, and I had some guys contact me about this in a junior welterweight fight with Steven Spark. They changed the officials on the fight where they were supposed to have 2 neutral guys, and they brought in 2 Mexican officials right before the fight, and they're the 2 that scored it for what's the opponent's name? I can't pronounce his name.
I didn't see the whole Sparks fight, so I'm not going.
Golaz.
I saw some.
Gabriel Golaz.
I didn't score it, so I'm not going to comment on the decision. But what I found disturbing was this: the fight's in Mexico. The WBC has a lot of clout in Mexico, and Mauricio Suleiman is making all these decisions.
He changed it. He scored a knockdown. He overruled the referees.
This is what happened with Julio Cesar Martinez. Knocks down his opponent in the 6th round. It's called a slip. The 7th round is about 20 seconds old, and the referee calls timeout and sends the fighters to the neutral corner and tells the judges, by the way, last round it should be scored a knockdown. Didn't they turn in their cards? I mean, they can't get. I don't get it. Listen, Mauricio Suleiman is a nice guy. I know him. He really has a heart of gold. He's a very nice, kind individual. He truly is. But he's become like his father. Like he's become like a dictator, not a.
And we wonder why nobody takes his sport seriously.
But a dictator. I mean, you're right. I mean, all these moves being made that he's going to try to justify. I mean, could you imagine Bivol accepting Canelo's offer, but willing to go to Mexico? And if he knocked Canelo out, they would find a way to revive Canelo and start the fight over 15 minutes later. And Bivol would get so harassed by the ref that he would get disqualified at the point.
Well, I only read about it. I didn't see it. But from what I read, I didn't like. And it's easy to see why not many people take this sport seriously. Because, again, you have shenanigans like that. And then all these guys are looking for gimmicks. I mean, look, I respect Canelo more than some do, but the idea is he's got to stop with this weight, catch weight stuff and going up and down in weight. You're a super middleweight or you're a light heavyweight. You tried light heavyweight, you got beat. Okay, you want to go up again? Then just shut up and do it. But you
You know
really
what
should
it is?
fight Benavidez because that's the fight where people think there's a guy out there who's your superior.
You want to know something? People forget on the way up, Canelo was willing to fight any style, and he did. People forget it. This is a later in his career, Canelo, where they do this with fighters, maximize the dollars, keep the gravy train rolling.
Well, Jack, we're going to talk about the master of that in a little bit in Mayweather.
Canelo fought Erislandy Lara. Terrible style for him. He fought him Austin Trout. Terrible style. Floyd Mayweather Jr. We'll talk about soon. Terrible style. He fought Danny Jacobs. Very risky fight. Jacobs was really good at the time. So Canelo took major risks throughout his career. Kudos to him. He hasn't been a protected fighter until late in his career. And you want to know something? For the most part, all the greats are protected to take the easier fights later in their career. Just about all of them. I'm talking about at least modern day, the last, 40, 50 years.
Yep. And look, that's what's wrong with boxing. And they can get away with it, Jack, because they're stars. It's that cut and dry. Canelo can call the shots basically because everybody will fall in line like it was with Mayweather and others before him. He was the money fight. But at least we have to say this about Canelo, Jack. He at least fights. He at least gives you 2 nights a year. Nobody else does that. And again, he doesn't fight. I mean, everybody's allowed a soft touch once in a while. But Canelo basically has fought the big names. But now that he's cleaned them out, the next big name is Benavidez. That's who he should be in there with next.
Yeah, Vatzik over there. Yeah, he won on the undercard. He was losing on points, Joe, and then he turned it on in the 6th round. He hurt his opponent and got him out of there. He didn't look good to me. He didn't look
He
good.
might be a player, Joe, because the division is kind of thin after the top 5, but he's not on the radar right now.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. He'll fight. He should fight again soon and keep it going and get a world rating. And who knows?
It's amazing, though, Jack, how this sport is just it's all of them. But like your friend Don Majeski said, I don't think you said that on the air. But when Canelo fights, it's like going to a concert. You're paying to see him, not the opposition, unless it's a Benavidez or Bivol or Charlo or somebody like that.
The bar that you were hanging out at, the bar that you were getting smashed at, you know what the people were saying, Frank? Oh, Canelo is fighting tonight. They weren't saying, oh, Canelo is the Canelo Ryder fighters tonight. No one mentioned Ryder's name. No one cared.
Joe, actually,
Golovkin would have been different. People would have said, oh, the Canelo Triple G fights tonight because, some opponents earn that status. But Canelo, if he's fighting Bivol, I wonder will they say Canelo's fighting Bivol? I don't think the average sports
they don't know who Bivol is. They don't know who Peter Beef is.
They've heard of Triple G, but Bivol hasn't quite gotten to that status. Listen, one of the fighters who we said we were going to talk about, one of the most compelling fighters in history, really compelling. I mean, personality-wise, Floyd Money Mayweather. I know you haven't been the biggest fan, and I respect the opinion on it, but there's so many varying opinions on Floyd Mayweather. It goes from completely overrated to the greatest of all time. We're going to play devil's advocate for the viewers. We're going to make believe we're attorneys. The Lotierzo Hirsch law firm. In walks Floyd Mayweather Jr. to our law firm. We have no business, Frank. We have no clients. And he drops a suitcase of money. He says, I need you guys to convince the public that I'm the GOAT. I'm the greatest fighter of all time. And you, with the amount of pride you have, Frank, you grab the money and start filing things, writing why Mayweather's the greatest. Now, we're playing devil's advocate here. So if someone tunes in the middle, they're not going to believe what they're hearing Frank Lotierzo saying. We're going to go over all the possible reasons. If we had to build a case for Floyd Money Mayweather, why he's the greatest of all time. Do you want me to fire the opening salvo or what?
No, you're longer winded than me, so I'll throw out 3 points. I'll give you the 3 points. What do you always hear me say about fighters getting out? Lennox Lewis, Carlos Monzon, even Marvin Hagler. They got out with their health, their wealth, and their respect. Floyd Mayweather, you could make a case, had the best career of any boxer in history. Not that he's the best. I think he's in the top 50 pound for pound. However, he made more money than any fighter ever. He didn't take any punishment. He got out with his health and his wealth. And the fact that he's undefeated, people can argue forever about how he would have done against the Durans, the Leonards, and whatnot. But the fact that he never lost, he can always come back and say that. But to me, the things that you can't take away are you can make a case he wasn't the best fighter, but he had maybe the best career because he hit all the goals, the money, the health, and the legacy. Now, after that, I can peel things back. But if I'm going to make the case, you or Henry Hascap or nobody, Russell Peltz, nobody can come up with a fighter that got more out of their career and took the least punishment and had all the accomplishments that he did.
I could play devil's advocate this way, various ways. In boxing, there's offense and there's defense, okay? We always hear, well, who are the hardest punchers? Who are the most devastating fighters of all time? Let me go on the other side of the fence, Frank. If I said Floyd Money Mayweather was the greatest defensive fighter of all time, forget the offense, defensive fighter of all time, it's hard to argue against it. You might say there's some guys as good, but defensively, how often did this guy get hit during his career? You could say his level of opposition left something to be desired, but he did fight good fighters, okay? Maybe you might say they're not great fighters he fought, but he fought good, solid fighters. Everyone would have to agree. Another Ricky Hatton was a good, solid fighter. By the time he fought Manny Pacquiao, it wasn't the same Pacquiao, but it was still a good Pacquiao. When he fought Miguel Cotto, it wasn't the same Miguel Cotto, but it was still a good Miguel Cotto. And I could go on, with some of his opponents. So defensively, that
he has to go down. You can't talk about the history of great defensive fighters in boxing without mentioning Mayweather's name. To me, where I lose a little for him is because I think he sacrificed offense for defense, where other guys were like a Tony was as good as Mayweather defensively until he got fat, but he didn't compromise his offense. That would be my only dig there. But again, you can't tell the history of great defensive boxers without mentioning Mayweather's name. So that's a feather in his cap also.
And look at this century, Frank, the 21st century. It's already, 22, 23 years in. We're in the year 2023.
Yep.
And odds are, if we had to say who's the greatest fighter of this century so far, Mayweather's in the lead. He's got to get caught. I don't want to hear, well, Pacquiao moved up in weight, this and that. Mayweather did beat Pacquiao, and Mayweather was an older fighter too. He's older than Pacquiao. So what is the argument with age there? But regardless, Mayweather was the fight of the decade from the years 2010 through 2019. In the decade before that, he should have been fight of the decade, but he finished second to Pacquiao in the voting of the Boxing Writers Association of America. In my opinion, he should have been fight of the decade then.
No, I was good with Pacquiao beating him. He did more.
But Mayweather would rate ahead of Pacquiao as fighter of this century so far.
But Jack, think of it. Besides the fact, and it carries a lot of weight that Mayweather did beat him. But Jack, what does everybody go by? Mayweather never lost. Pacquiao has 6 or 7 losses. That tilts the argument. I've had young guys say to me, well, how good could Ali have been? He lost 5 times. Marciano never lost. It's like they don't understand. And that's another thing that we could say in favor of Mayweather. Jack, he changed the business. His effect on the game today, I think it's negative, but you can't deny his effect is in play today. We have Canelo emulating his career. We have Crawford and Spence. Nobody wants to take the fight because they don't want to lose the O. And we see it with other guys. So his effect on the business, on how it's run, he's changed it completely. I don't think for the better, but he did change it. And he also trained fans to think that if you're not undefeated, you're not worth watching. And that's bad.
It's all about perception, Frank, during a boxing match. One of the more famous boxing matches of all time was Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. Okay. And if you took that as the whole fight is one big round, you can make a compelling argument that Hagler was actually more effective, landed the better punches.
There's no way I will agree with that, Jack. I don't see that at all.
Because you, Frank,
nope,
were fooled by the perception of round by round with Leonard landing a flurry at the end, Leonard doing a little this, Leonard winding
Jack,
up.
Leonard won as many exchanges as Hagler did during that fight, and that's not his fight.
Leonard was hitting, Hagler was blocking a lot of the blows, but there was a certain, Leonard's goal was to create a perception, but we're on Mayweather now. So Mayweather's creating that similar perception where he's kind of brainwashing a certain segment, of the population. Well, he's this, he's that, he's this, he's that. We're supposed to be defending Mayweather, and it's kind of like we're reverting.
All right, Jack, let's look at it this way. And this is where, and now we're going to go negative. And this is where I have a hard time with Mayweather's stature. Okay. If I said to you, give me his 5 best wins, give them to me. Just give me the names.
In no particular order?
No order. Just give me the 5 best wins that stand out to you.
Diego Corrales.
Okay.
Ricky Hatton.
Okay.
Gennaro Hernandez.
Okay. Wow, the guy had 50 wins and you're struggling.
No, I'm trying to play Arturo Gatti. You know what it is? He's so much better than Gatti, but he dominated every second of the fight.
Okay, you want to use Gatti? Go ahead. That's 4.
Right, and I could say the rematch with Castillo.
Okay.
Just off the top of my head, chances are there's another fight.
So you think because he's a legend today because he beat Corrales, Gennaro Hernandez, Gatti, Castillo in the rematch, and what was the other one?
I should have said, did I say Pacquiao? That should have been it. Ricky Hatton.
Oh, you said Ricky Hatton, yeah. Okay.
I named 5 names, off the top of my head quickly. I didn't want to say De La Hoya because that fight proved to me, even though Mayweather deserved the decision, that fight proved to me if Oscar was in the prime of his career and him and Mayweather fought best 4 out of 7, Oscar would win 2 or 3 outright in his prime. He would beat Mayweather would maybe edge Oscar 4-3, no more than 4-2.
Jack, I don't know how you didn't mention Oscar with those names for the fact that Mayweather he was never a star and didn't become a superstar until after he beat De La Hoya. So to me,
Miguel Cotto, he showed enormous heart and grit.
Let me address that.
I miss Canelo.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to give you my names, and then I'm going to give you why there's a problem. Diego Corrales, to me, is his signature win. Corrales, Mosley, De La Hoya, Canelo, and Cotto. Okay, now Diego Corrales, got to give it to him. Undefeated in his prime, he won the fight convincingly. But after that, if you think about it, he beats De La Hoya 8 years after Vernon Forrest. I'm sorry, he beats Mosley 8 years after Vernon Forrest beat Mosley twice and more convincingly. So why is Mayweather, Jack, you got to let me finish. So why is Mayweather, why does he get so much credit for beating Mosley? Now, if we go to De La Hoya, Mosley beat De La Hoya much more convincingly 7 years before Mayweather beat him. If we go to Pacquiao.
Wait. No, he didn't. Mosley didn't beat De La Hoya more convincingly. The first fight,
Jack,
I have Mosley winning 115, 113. The second fight, I was
okay. And what did Mayweather beat? And what did Mayweather beat Mosley by?
He beat
De La Hoya. Jack, my point is this: everybody that's a big name on Mayweather's record, they were defeated much more conclusively by another fighter. Pacquiao was knocked out by Marquez 3 years before Mayweather beat him. So why does it stop the presses that Mayweather beat him? Mosley was handled by Vernon Forrest, but more so than Mayweather did, and it was a better Mosley. Same thing with De La Hoya. Mosley did better against De La Hoya than Mayweather did. Look at Cotto. He fought him when he was green. Okay, I'm sorry, Canelo, he got much better. And if we go to Cotto, look what Pacquiao did to Cotto 3 years before Mayweather got him. So who did he beat besides Diego Corrales, who was undefeated and in their prime? That's his signature win, where I can put check marks next to all his other big wins and say, well, this is why it doesn't mean that much. Oh, this guy was knocked out 3 years before you fought him. I think that Marquez won at least 2 fights with Pacquiao. Why does Mayweather win a decision over Pacquiao in 2015 when it's such a big deal when Marquez knocked him dead in 2012?
But what about the 3 fights before that? Okay, Marquez. Let's put it this way. Okay, Marquez had certain advantages against Pacquiao in that 4th fight, and I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, he had certain
advantages, Jack, or did he just level the playing field because he knew what was on the other side? Because all the rumors about Marquez exist about Pacquiao.
Yeah, okay, that would be fair to say. Canelo, for example. Canelo was a pro something like 8 years or so when he fought Mayweather, around that. I don't have
Jack, he never fought a pay-per-view fight. Mayweather made him come down 2 pounds in weight.
Canelo had something like 44 fights.
Right.
When he fought Mayweather in the big fight. He'd been in with Lara, Trout, different styles to be, get him ready for Mayweather. And, Floyd schooled him in that fight. It was just better. Give him his due. Did Canelo improve afterwards? He actually did. And
Jack, the Lara fight was after he fought Mayweather. Austin Trout was right before him.
Austin Trout, I stand to be corrected there. But the point is, he was a pretty experienced fighter. How many years was he a pro, Canelo, when he fought Mayweather? About 7, 8 years, right?
Let's see. I'll tell you in a second. I forget. Yeah, he turned pro in 2005, and they fought in 2013.
Yeah, 8 years. Okay?
8 years, okay. But still, Jack, we know he was fighting Tijuana cab drivers in the beginning.
And let me tell you this, too. Even you take this view, Frank, when you complain about Mayweather, how he got to where he was, you even acknowledge, well, style-wise, he probably would have beaten Canelo at Canelo's best.
He does have his style edge, but he didn't fight the best Canelo.
Okay, I can give you that. Not the way Canelo became later. Canelo did improve later on. I do have to acknowledge that. And it's the same with Pacquiao. You'll feel, well, he didn't fight the best of Pacquiao. He didn't fight the Pacquiao who fought Cotto. And the Pacquiao who fought Cotto was a machine. Maybe he beats Mayweather, okay? I could see that.
That's when they should have fought, actually.
That's when they should have fought. But even in that fight, if that version of Pacquiao fought Mayweather at his best, you'd probably give Mayweather a little edge there. You'd probably feel style-wise.
I always felt Mayweather had the style to beat Pacquiao.
Yeah.
But that's just a matchup. But Jack, my issue with Mayweather is when you look at the big names he beat, it's not one of them. It's not two of them. It's not three of them. It's 4 or 5 of them of his biggest wins. They all were defeated more conclusively when they were at the top of their game by another fighter. So to me, Mayweather beating Kogo 3 years after or 4 years after Pacquiao annihilated him doesn't mean as much. It just doesn't.
No,
He was smart. He got Canelo early. Can't blame him there. That was a good business move. He did make him come down in weight. And think about that. Canelo was a skeleton in that fight at 152. And now we're talking about a guy who's fighting light heavyweights now. He was definitely compromised in that fight. But look, he thought he would win. But that's my issue with Mayweather. When I compare him to other greats, they have better signature wins. And we also didn't touch on the fact that Mayweather totally avoided the guy who he matched up terrible with in Paul Williams. And if you remember, he retired for a while and waited for Williams to lose before he came back.
Yeah, I always wondered how a Mayweather-Paul Williams fight would have gone.
I would have loved to have seen that fight, Jack.
In his career, I'm not sure how it would have gone. I could see Mayweather winning that fight.
I'm going to tell you how we know how it would have gone. There's one thing that tells us exactly how it would have gone. And you know what that is? They never fought. They never fought. So that tells me that Mayweather knew it would have been a big problem.
He was accused more so than Paul Williams of ducking Antonio Margarito.
Him too.
That was the fight. But we know Mayweather would have beaten Margarito.
I don't know that, but he would have been favored.
It's style-wise, it was made for Margarito would have come forward. He could have boxed, crude, rough guy. I think he avoids him. But Paul Williams was quick, could box.
And after Williams beat Margarito, Mayweather wanted no part of him. Jack, I never picked against Floyd Mayweather, and I used to be a big fan of his, but I never picked against him after 207 because every fight he went in, I could see that there was something in his favor that tilted the fight in his favor, and that scared me. I used to have a saying, if Mayweather signed to fight Anthony Joshua, I would have picked Mayweather. And then the other thing we're not talking about also is, Jack, what if the fight is scored correctly and there's no shenanigans and he doesn't get the decision against Castillo? And I was a huge Mayweather fan that night, and I remember I turned to my wife at the time, my ex-wife, and I said, this is going to be interesting because the HBO kid should not get this decision. And if he gets a loss here, it's going to cost them some money, and it's a big setback. And I had it 4 points for Castillo, as did Harold Letterman. Lampley and Merchant also scored it for Castillo. I don't think all 4 of us were wrong.
I had it a draw.
Okay. But you didn't have Mayweather winning, though.
Yeah, well, I had a score to draw, so that would have taken away his perfect record had I been one of the judges. And you could say what you want about Mayweather, in his career, how he managed it. It may have just turned out that way. I don't think Mayweather orchestrated his whole career from the beginning, how it would turn out exactly.
No, Jack, he didn't become the master manager until after he beat De La Hoya, and that's when Mayweather's brand was made. That's when he became Money Mayweather, and that's when his brand was official at that time. And if you remember, after he beat De La Hoya, well, prior to the De La Hoya fight, they never did 24/7 before. That was the first one. Mayweather capitalized on that, becoming the bad guy. And then after that fight, if you remember, the following year, he was on WrestleMania, and he fought the Big Show. Well, during that time, in the build-up to that, he became very friendly with Vince McMahon. And Vince McMahon said to Mayweather, he said, Floyd, here's what you have to do. You're not the kid next door. You're not De La Hoya. You're not Sugar Ray Leonard. Your style is only pleasing to hardcore boxing fans, but there's not enough of them. So you have to be the bad guy, wear the black hat, and you have to stay undefeated, because as long as you come on and say, nobody can beat me, there will always be a market for people to buy your fight, hoping that that's the night you get beat. And he mastered it. And Jack, even if you look at what he did with Tank, I've argued with guys that used to say 3-4 years ago, Lomachenko will beat Tank, and Tank's afraid of Lomachenko. And I said, mark my words, when they fight, if they ever fight, Tank will beat Lomachenko, because it'll be at a time when Lomachenko is long in the tooth and Tank is at his best. And we know now, if they ever fight, that's the case.
Well, Tank is on the Mayweather track right now. Mayweather stirs a lot of emotions today. He's trying very hard to be relevant. He hates the idea of someone else being in the limelight more than him. But he's not going to make a comeback, because he's not going to risk his unbeaten.
No, he would get killed.
He's too proud of that, too.
Jack, you know what he did? Mayweather got me in a way that I hate to admit. I had a saying, and it's probably the biggest miss I've ever had in the 56 years, or almost probably I'm 60 years of following boxing. Okay, I said, when Floyd, 7 days, I took Ali's line and I said, 7 days after Mayweather retires, he'll be a week-old ghost. And I couldn't have been more wrong. He has had a meaningful fight in 8 years, and here we are still talking about him.
And the interviews he gives, he stirs the emotions. He gets a lot of people upset what he says about Muhammad Ali. Well, first of all, he says Ali lost all 3 fights to Norton. Look at the tapes. I mean, I thought Ali won the second fight. I thought, even though I scored it for Norton 8 rounds to 7 in the third fight, it easily could have gone the other way.
I thought all 3 fights were scored correct.
Yeah. Well, they were all okay. But the point is, and then Mayweather mentions, and is he really wrong about Ali? What's so great just laying on the ropes and letting a guy pound you and get tired? You know, and Mayweather, unlike Ali, he always came in the ring in shape.
Yes.
In a way, I respect Mayweather more as a fighter than Ali, because he took it more seriously in the later stages of his career. But Ali is so revered. And Mayweather says, me saying I'm the greatest, I'm no different from how Ali acted. And he's right. Ali would talk. Remember the way Ali put down Joe Louis, old, slow, shuffling Joe Louis. Ali would ridicule the old timers a lot of the times. So now that Mayweather's doing it to Ali, in a sense, people hate Mayweather. How dare you talk about Ali that way? But he's just doing what Ali did.
But Jack, you know what the problem is for Mayweather? Look, Ali making his legacy and creating his legacy are the reasons why he was afflicted health-wise at the end of his career. But Mayweather can't stand, because nobody has ever said that Muhammad Ali ducked this guy or ducked that guy. He gave guys rematches when he had nothing to gain, and they did. And he fought killers in their prime when he was past his prime. Now, look, it hurt him physically, but legacy-wise, you can't compare Mayweather to Ali.
You know what it is? The Alis and the Sugar Ray Leonards, they have monster victories, absolute monster victories.
And they had natural charisma.
Blow you away, like Ali, the Joe Frazier fight, Sonny Liston, George Foreman. This is, legendary stuff. Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Duran, Hagler. And then you look at Mayweather, it just doesn't match up. It doesn't even come close to matching up the best of Mayweather's victories. You know what Mayweather maybe missed the boat? This could have been his iconic victory when Triple G was an absolute assassin at the top of his game. An absolute assassin. Had Mayweather moved up to middleweight, like the way Sugar Ray Robinson did, okay? And said, okay, I'm going to make him not come down in weight, but I'm going to have a clause that he can't gain X amount of pounds after the weigh-in. He absolutely has to come in at such and such after, monitor his weight to keep him at 160 and take on Triple G. Even let Triple G do what he wants. Mayweather maybe that's when Mayweather.
That
was
would have
just
been his signature win if he did that.
maybe, I'm not sure who would have won that fight on reflection. Mayweather was great enough to maybe upend that a middleweight Triple G. Maybe
No.
not. That's an argument for another
Triple
day.
G would have stopped Mayweather, Jack. And again, think about it this way. Mayweather could have called Triple G up and says, look, I'm going to give you a chance to make $100 million. You got to weigh 160 in the ring. Do you think Golovkin would have turned that down? No way. He would have done it. Again, any fight involving Mayweather that we think about, and it, you know, for whatever reason it didn't happen, it's because Mayweather didn't let it happen, because he could have made any fight that he wanted. He was the draw.
Yeah,
So I hold that against him. And Jack, I'm going to tell you this much too, and I catch a lot of slack for this, and I know the record will not bear it out, but I believe the best Terrence Crawford I saw head to head would beat Mayweather at 35, 40, and 47. I think he's all wrong for him stylistically, but the problem is that will never become a historic debate because Terrence Crawford will not retire undefeated.
Yeah, Terrence Crawford, it's a shame. He's never going to go down as an all-time great. I don't see it unless somehow the next few years he starts fighting and he's winning. Based on Terrence Crawford's last fight, I'm telling you, he's not the same Terrence Crawford as before.
I'll give you Jack, here's the roadmap. If Crawford were to beat Spence and Boots and go up and beat Jermell Charlo, that might put him there. There's work out there that he can do. I just don't think the fights will happen. But there is a path for him to do that, just like Shakur Stevenson and Tank both have the opponents, including each other, to become on that list where we start thinking them as, you know, in the legacy of great guys.
Devin Haney said he's going to stay at lightweight. That means if you're staying at lightweight, you got to fight Shakur Stevenson. Bob Arum can make the fight. They're both promoted by Top Rank, so the fight can easily be made. Okay, but I'm telling you this, after Haney beats Lomachenko, and I don't give this version of Lomachenko much of a chance, I could see Haney moving up in weight and maybe fighting if Josh Taylor beats Teofimo, fighting Josh Taylor in Ireland sooner than, take on Shakur Stevenson. But they all talk about this. They're going to do this, they're going to do that. But when push comes to shove, it's kind of a business at the end. Devin Haney went to Australia, beat George Kambosos twice. He didn't have to go there, showed great intestinal fortitude. But now that he's on the A side, you act a little differently, I think.
Jack, I just want to acknowledge, Brandon, you're exactly right with what you said. I read your comment. You're exactly right. Jack, when I look at the lightweights, this is the way I look at it. Haney is third. I'm going to assume that he's going to beat Lomachenko. I have him third, and I have first and second between Tank and Shakur. I don't know who I would pick if they fought, but I think they're the cream of the crop, and that will be the super fight at that weight. And I also saw something else today, and this might throw you off. Tank Davis and Regis Prograis have been having words about fighting at 140. I think that would be a very difficult fight for Tank at 140. I would actually stay away from that fight.
Signed with Matchroom, so Eddie Hearn doing business with Al Heyman.
Probably doesn't happen. They're jawing back and forth, and I think that would be a very interesting fight.
Okay.
Jack, I got one quick thing for you. One more quick thing. Today is officially Sonny Liston's birthday. Supposedly he was born May 8th, 32. Do you buy he was born in 32?
Oh, I don't know. I think he was a little older than what he was made out to be.
But not 10 years older.
No.
He wasn't 40 when he fought Ali.
No, not at all.
Okay, then we're on the same boat there. Or in the same boat. All right, everybody. Jack, Great show. Thanks for the debate. We will be back next week, and we'll start previewing the Haney-Lomachenko fight. I have a feeling we're both going to pick the same guy, but there's a lot of things to break down, and who knows what's going to happen this week, what's going to be signed or what's going to blow up. So until then, thanks, Jack, and thanks for watching, everybody.